Vkibel Yehudim from 1927, and we're from the previous Rebbe. We're on page 194 at the Kitzur. Before we begin the fifth paragraph, let's learn the Kitzur. What did we learn earlier? Yavayer, the Moshe Huraya Mehemda. In yesterday's shir, the Rebbe explained to us that Moshe Rabbeinu is called the loyal shepherd. V'spashtusa de Moshe b'chol dora, and there's an extension of Moshe Rabbeinu in each generation. Who is the extension? Who are these Moshe Rabbeinus? Heim Roshei Alpha Yisrael. They are the leaders of the Yidden. Hamachaskim as Yisrael, who give chizuk to Yidden be'emunosem b'Hashem. Not chizuk, just stam chizuk. The particular chizuk that the Moshe Rabbeinu of a generation, he gives to strengthen one's emunah in Hashem. And here is a very, very straightforward definition of what the previous Rebbe and Chabad Hasidus considers to be a Moshe Rabbeinu. So if someone wakes up tomorrow and he says, I want to find my Moshe Rabbeinu in my generation. I want to identify, I want to cleave to him. What should I look for? According to the Frierdiker Rebbe, he says it here. It's those individuals who are mechazik the emunah by Yidden in Hashem. And if you identify with someone who you feel is mechazik es emunah by Hashem, that is for you the Moshe Rabbeinu, given that he has a track record of being the Moshe Rabbeinu. If he has a track record of playing poker and golf and wasting time, and at the same time he's mechazik your emunah, it's not necessarily that he's really the Moshe Rabbeinu of the generation, Roshei Alpha Yisrael, as the Alter Rebbe explains in chapter 2 in Tanya. I'll tell you a little secret that I never said before, I believe, but I asked Rabbi Malinowitz Olav Sholem. You know that Rabbi Malinowitz Olav Sholem learned Chassidus with Rabbi Yoel Kahn for, I think, 3 or 4 years when he was in Monsey in the yeshiva or kollel of Rabbi Abba Berman. Rabbi Abba Berman was a big goyin, a Talmud Chacham, a Litvischer goyin. He came from the Shanghai, he was with the mirror students in Shanghai, and he came to America, New York, and at a certain point in his life, he opened up a yeshiva for like the Mitzuyonim, like the best guys, right? And Rabbi Malinowitz was in that program. He told me that he and his friends wanted to learn Chassidus with Rabbi Yoel Kahn, who was coming anyway to Monsey to give a shiur for Rabbi Werner. Rabbi Werner is a shliach there. So Rabbi Berman said, I have no problem with you learning Tanya and Chassidus, but not during the time of Seder Yeshiva, which didn't end till 9:30 or so, or 10. He said, afterwards, you can learn as much Chassidus as you want. So Rabbi Linowitz told me that he and his friends respected that. They didn't play the shtick. And when the Seder Yeshiva finished 9:30, 10, Rabbi Yoel Kahn would stay an extra hour to 2, till like midnight, to give this group, Rabbi Malinowitz's friends, a special Tanya shiur, because they couldn't come to the earlier shiur because it was while they had Seder Yeshiva learning Gemara. That's one piece of history that he told me that I don't know if I've ever told you. The second thing is, I asked Rabbi Malinowitz, did you have any personal dialogue with Rabbi Yoel Kahn? Rabbi Yoel Kahn is like the world's genius master of Chassidus, So, and a very special Yid, a very humble person. So I asked him if he had any contact. So he said, besides the shiur and dialogue during the shiur, and maybe before the shiur, after the shiur, all the chevra were around and they enjoyed speaking with him. He said he one time wrote him a letter. He said, and he wrote a letter. He wrote a letter asking him, why must you say, what is the source? What is the mucker? What is the source for having a Rebbe? You understand? He was a Litvischer. He wasn't a Chassid. He didn't come from that Weltschung, as Avi said before. So he asked Rabbi Yoel in a letter, what is the source for having a Rebbe? And he told me that Rabbi Yoel answered him, the source is Tanya chapter 2. The Alter Rebbe is the source, again. Are there other sources? Could be other Chassidish Rebbes say it too in their writings. But Rabbi Yoel told them that in Chabad, we look at Tanya chapter 2, where the Alter Rebbe talks about Roshei Alpha Yisrael. And he said that is the source for a Rebbe, which is very interesting, because if you take away that source, there is no source for having to have a Rebbe. Yes, Hillel.
I just want to mention, yesterday I was speaking with a colleague, a psychologist here, and I asked about a picture she had taken in Ukraine, and she said she went on a family visit. Her family's from Ladi, and her maiden name was, and not the maiden, the family name was Schneerston. So
no, we have to please get me her number or contact. I'd like to follow up to see about family contact. That's interesting.
Okay, I'll be glad to.
Thank you, please. Okay. Anyway, so that's why I pointed this out to you, that the Rebbe says Hamchaskim es Yisrael b'Mrusim Hashem. Those individuals, which he calls here Roshei Alpha Yisrael, the leaders, the heads of the Jewish people, are those that are mechazik the emunah b'Hashem. The Memale kol almin. And what does the emunah consist of? What does the emunah consist of? Avi, Pirkei Avos Aseh Lecha Rav doesn't mean having a Rebbe. It means to have a teacher, a rabbi. It doesn't mean having a Rebbe. A Rebbe is a soul geologist. It's a whole different ballgame, Avi. It's like you come to the Rebbe and he says to you, Avi Dobler, you belong now at 70 years old. You belong now in China. What? I'm very comfortable here. I mean, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about, and if you have that connection. Anyway, so we go back. So, but look what the previous Rebbe says at the end of the Kitzur. What does this emunah consist of? What does it consist of? The Memale kol almin v'iyu seiv kol almin. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu is all pervading and all encompassing. So it's not just, I mentioned Yoini because Yoini brought up Nachman of Breslov yesterday, which of course believes the same thing, but it's all a matter of, the words that are used and the concepts. Chabad Hasidus emphasizes very much, as you know from Tanya, this idea of Memale kol almin v'seiv kol almin. That the emunah must penetrate and pervade. It must get into the bones. Just to say I have emunah is going to work out, that's not what Chabad and the previous Rebbe means by mechazik es emunah. That's a fine thing, but that's not what we mean. We mean that the emunah is so powerful that your brain starts believing. And your heart starts feeling. That's the emunah we're talking about. And someone who is able to do that and does so for the Yidden, he and that type of person is Roshei Alpha Yisrael. Next paragraph. Now comes the chidush, the novelty of Chassidus. When we talk about emunah, says the Rebbe, the ikar emunah. Look at the word over here, Chavre, right? He says, v'hine ikar, the primary aspect of emunah that Jewish souls have. It's not in Memale kol almin, but it is b'soivev kol almin. And that's a bomb. That's a real statement. What does that mean? The idea that God pervades the world and gives us chayas, we know from waking up this morning and being healthy and being thankful. You don't need a Moshe Rabbeinu for that. Moda ani lefanecha. But when it comes to Seiviv Kol Almin, when it comes to the periphery, and the periphery means that you don't see necessarily God in the periphery, and over there you find God, that a Rebbe, a tzaddik, a Rosh Alpha Yisrael, he helps you find Hashem in the periphery, inside of Kol Almin. Yes, Yoni.
So it's interesting. I mean, it just came to me now. Is that the reason why the Rebbe, not this Rebbe, the seventh Rebbe,
yeah,
Menzel, is that the reason why he sent out all the shlichim to four corners of the world, literally to places like in Goa and India, where you had a lot of people that were Jewish, and they're going to these places, but they're going to all these, out of the box crazy places, and a lot of them became Baal Tshuvas. Instead of in Eretz Yisrael, they became a Baal Tshuva in Goa, India.
Yes, so it's one of the reasons, not the only reason, but absolutely. The Seiv of Kol Almin, the unexpected, what's unexpected, and the unexpected should be turned on to Hashem, that's a Chiddush. And that's why we need a Moshe Rabbeinu. So Moshe, if someone says, well, you need a Rebbe, you need a Tzaddik, you need a Moshe Rabbeinu so that you stay straight on the course, that's Narishkeit. For that, you do what Avi wrote to me over here a moment. I'll say, look, Harav, get yourself a rabbi, get yourself a teacher, get yourself a mashpia, get yourself a good friend, and listen. And use your head and don't be an animal, and you'll be all right. You need a Rebbe for that. A Rebbe you need, what does it say in Pirkei Avos chapter 2? Rabbi Yomer, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, who's called Rabbi, says, what is the path that man should choose? One that's nice for man and nice for God. So I heard the interpretation. Rabbi Yomer, only a Rebbe can tell you what path you should choose. A rabbi doesn't know where your soul belongs. He knows if you're trained in psychology, be a psychologist. If you're trained in business, be a businessman. If you're trained in making shoes, be a shoemaker. Right? 1 + 1 = 2. But to go and tell someone and or hint to someone that, your neshama belongs here because there's your mission. Like the famous story with the Rabbi Tokeyer, the chaplain, newly married, right? I told you, newly married, he comes to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe tells him they need a chaplain in Japan or Okinawa. And he looks at his wife, he looks at the Rebbe, he says, I just got married. I have a good job here. The Rebbe says, I understand, but they really need someone, and you would be the right man for it. He doesn't tell the Rebbe, he doesn't promise him anything. He goes out, he says to his wife, what do you say? And they both say, the Lubavitch Rebbe is a holy person. He's obviously saying something to us. And they went, and they were there for 20, 30 years, whatever. And then when he came back, and as he went, he saw the Hashgacha Pratis for a newly married couple. Do you understand? And you find me another person who takes the responsibility to send someone who just got married with his wife to Okinawa. No Rav will do it. No rabbi will do it. You have to be a soldier. You have to be a Moshe Rabbeinu to take that achrayus. I heard a story, the Baba Rebbe, the old Baba Reb Shleima, they used to live in Crown Heights. In Crown Heights was an ecumenical Orthodox neighborhood and conservative. Jews that belonged to the conservative temple, the Jewish center on Eastern Parkway, which Chabad owns now, the Holy Torah Yeshiva, and they make all the weddings. That used to be one of the most famous conservative temples in all of New York, maybe the largest one.
I lived there. That's where I have my conservative Hebrew education from.
Huh? You see? What Hashgacha Pratis? So in that neighborhood, you had mostly other Orthodox Jews, not Lubavitch. Lubavitch was a small group that came in the 50s. And you had the Bavav Chassidim, they came also in the 50s. So the Eastern Parkway, that 770 is on one side, and on the other side, going towards Williamsburg, that's where the Baba Rebbe had his house, which happens to be 184 Brooklyn Avenue, the same house that the Rayatz, our Rebbe, our author here, stayed in 1930. In Sukkot, 1930, he was in that house. Because the house was owned by the owner of the Schulsinger publishing house. He was a wealthy man, and he rented or gave the house to the Rebbe for Yom Tov, and then for the year, even though the Rebbe was traveling most of the year. 184 Brooklyn Avenue. And later on, the Baba Rebbe bought it, and they built a shul in the back and a mikveh. Anyway, so is a Yid walking up Kingston Avenue, an old Hungarian Jew. Now, you understand when I'm describing an old Hungarian Jew, he has a white beard, he was already, he just came to this country in the late 40s or 50s, and he's walking up, and he says, where is the Baba Rebbe? And so he meets a Yid, happened to be a Lubavitcher, and the Lubavitcher tells him, go across Eastern Parkway towards Williamsburg, or further down on Brooklyn Avenue, you'll come to the Beis Medrash. And he gets upset. He says, I don't know this area. He wasn't from there, I guess. I guess he was from Williamsburg. And he says, and he starts giving this person a hard time. Conversation ends. He finds the Baba Rebbe. He goes into the Baba Rebbe, and he says to the Baba Rebbe, I met this Jew who didn't even look like a Jew. He looked like more of a Jew by them is the long Hungarian 3/4 jacket. I'm not talking about the frocks. They used to wear these 3/4 jackets with a certain type of hat, and the payas, and he said he didn't have no payas, and he didn't have no 3/4, and he belittles him. And the Baba Rebbe understood from the way he described the person that was the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And the Baba Rebbe said, you better go and ask him for mechila. You better go ask for forgiveness for what you said to me about him. And then he spoke to the Baba Rebbe about an issue he had, and the Baba Rebbe said to him, I cannot help you. For that, you have to go back to that young man, even though he was a few years older than the Baba Rebbe. But that man that you say is a modern man, he deals with such soul issues. Maybe it was about one of his kids, I don't remember what the issue was. He says, but you have to go back to him to ask for forgiveness, and number 2, to ask him to give you advice for your issue. So I'm sharing the story because the idea of chizuk emunah that we're talking about here in the Maamar, the previous Rebbe says, the ikar is in soivev kol almin. In the daily affairs, day to day, you don't need a tzaddik, this level of Moshe Rabbeinu. There are many others that can give you that, and it's important. Many people don't even have that. Like Avi said, Asay l'charav. Do you have a rabbi? Do you have a mashpia? Do you have a friend? Do you have a teacher? But here we're talking about something else. A soul geologist, a maven under the neshama. Let's continue.
Rebbe, how did he know?
How did who know?
How did the Baba Rebbe know that he bumped into the Lubavitcher Rebbe?
I don't know. He described the Rebbe used to visit his mother every day. Maybe it was at the time the Rebbe was walking back from visiting his mother, or it's not coming today, or it was going to his mother. So he figured out maybe the time. I don't know how. He figured it out. I don't know how. It says in the Avos Reb Nosson, Kol Masha Kodesh Baruch Hu Shebaru HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ba'olam Bara Ba'adam. Whatever man God created in the universe, in a microcosm, it's in man as well. Bara Charoshim Ya'aris Ba'olam. He created forests. Kinegdam Bara Sha'aris Ba'adam. Interesting. The Medrash says, corresponding to the Ya'aros are hair, man's hair. I don't know the connection, but that's what he says. And the Medrash continues and enumerates other items that were created in the world that one can find in a microcosm in man. That's why man is called a small universe. There's a verse which says, and he gave man the world, meaning he put the world into man's heart. What does that mean? That man is a microcosm of what's going on in the universe. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God Almighty, placed the world, the universe, in the heart of man. Whatever you find in the universe, it's refined through man. Man can and should refine the universe by finding those issues in a microcosm in himself. The whole and the universe, Nikra Guf Gadol, it's called simultaneously a large body, like a large body of man. And explains. Just as man has 248 limbs and 365 sinews, vesidos and hair, v'tziponayim and nails, all of these things, are found in the world. And since the universe is considered a large body, so the universe has an energy that enlivens it. If it were not to have this energy, how does the world exist? And we see, every morning we wake up, the world is still here. I heard from the Slonim Rebbe's of Yerushalayim's grandson, Rabbi Yosef Weinberg, very, very fine person. So there used to be a rabbi, a chassid, who was a kind of a Slonimer and a Lubavitcher. His name was Rabbi Kastel, I think. The old Kastel. He originally, he was from Lubavitch, and he came to Yerushalayim, and this Rabbi Weinberg, when he was a bacher, he attended to him. So he told me one morning, attended to him like he was by himself. His family didn't live there. He made Aliyah. He went to Eretz Yisrael. Just like Rabbi Twersky, Olav Shalom, that he picked himself up and came to Eretz Yisrael, and he left his family behind, and he wanted them to come, and they didn't come. I'm hoping to, in a few hours from now, to go and be Menachem Ovo, and the brothers and the kids are all here. No, I don't think anyone came. It was something that I don't know if you guys heard from him, but it bothered him, because he came to a place in his life where, not just because his wife and wanted to be in Eretz Yisrael, to be next to her kids and grandkids and all that. He himself came to a place where he felt that a Yid belongs in Eretz Yisrael. But his family, this is talking about Chernobyl Chassidim, and a certain mindset for so many years didn't gravitate that way. And they didn't come, and it bothered him, And in a way, look, he's passed away, he's buried in Bet Shemesh, as you know, they buried him there. I'm not sure if any of the kids were around for the Shiva. I think they're here in Borough Park. So why am I saying this? So who was I telling you about? Who did I start telling you about? Cup.
Castel.
So this Castel, he did this. And before I had a great grandfather who my father tells me did the exact same thing. He left his wife and his kids for Romania, and he went to Eretz Yisrael, and they never saw him again. And then, it's muzar, it's a little strange, but there were Yidden who had this feeling at a certain time in their life that nothing could stop them. Not wife, not children, not business, not family, nada, nothing. And he said, you want to come? Come with me. But I'm going to Eretz Yisrael. So anyway, Castel was in Eretz Yisrael, and he's by himself, he's an older person. So this Yossel Weinberg attended to him. And one morning, he's standing there next to his bed, sitting next to his bed, and he gets up, he rises early in the morning, and he tells me, he jumps out of the bed, and he says, the Welt steht noch? The world still exists? And he takes a look. Yeah, it still exists. The sensation, and he told me it wasn't a game. It wasn't a game by this Yid. He really meant it. He actually was questioning, maybe the world it's finished. So we're learning here in the Maamar. That's what reminded me. How do I know that there's a koyach, a chayas that gives life because the imlakain, eichu chay. How does the world exist? You must say there is a force that enlivens the world. The Anurayim shoylam chay. Anurayim. That's what it said. Castel says the Anurayim, and we see that the world is here. So there must be a force. Otherwise, there would be no world out there. Take, for example, trees and vegetation. It has a vitality and energy that sustains them, enlivens them. The chayis almin. This chayis is what we call the pervading energy. It's an individual specific vitality for every single creature. In other words, the way this energy works, Yoni, is it gives you what you need. It gives Moshe what he needs. It gives me what I need. It's customized for the individual. Okay? So we could coin this energy, the customized energy. Memale kol almin. Ukmayim, the next page, 195. Just as the soul fills the body, so too the God Hashem fulfills the world. Just as the body, which is considered the microcosm of the world, it's sustained because of the soul. So too, the energy of the universe, which is a large body, is sustained by Hashem. The energy in the universe is an individualized, customized energy to each creature, their amount of energy. Just as the life force of the soul that's invested in man's limbs, every single limb has a different amount of koyach. So it could be that you're very strong in your hands and your feet are weaker. And it could be your head is great, but your body doesn't cooperate. So why is that? If it's one similar chayis, one similar koyach that's being given to you by Shem, every part of the body should be energized. The answer is no, because this is Memale kol almin. It pervades, it's customized. So every single receptacle that receives the chayas, depending on its makeup, that's how much energy pervades it, and that's the result of that energy. We're talking about this energy that invests itself in the body. Listen to this. We divide that into three categories. Roish, Guf, V'regel. You'll have to wait. Roish, Guf, V'regel. The head, the body, and the feet. You can't compare the energy of the head to the energy of the guf or to the energy of the feet. Although the feet are also necessary for man, the complete siyur image of man, of koma, of man's image, it's when he's complete with all of his limbs. V'haraglayim, and the feet, heim, mevoriyodin, they're also part of man's limbs. V'yesh yisrem ma'ile beregel, and there's even an advantage to the feet, shemayim des haroish. It erects the head, umagbihoi, and it uplifts it. Amongst men, there are differences in their largeness and smallness. The yeshodam gavoya. You have a man who's tall. The yeshodam cotton, and you have a man who's short. Although, where do we recognize the height of man? It's in his head. But it's because of the intermediary, the feet. When the feet, you have large legs, you're taller. You have smaller legs, you're shorter. And just as within every single man, there's another difference, whether man is sitting or he's standing. When he sits, then his posture kfufa is bent over. Ubamiden, when he stands, he's taller. The Hagam Shahagad was Vagoiva Nikeberosh, although the height is recognized in the head. It comes through the intermediary of the feet. Another point is that the feet carry man to a place where the head itself and would not be able to reach there. What do we see? There is ni'itzas. You know what ni'itzas means? It's wedged. There's the wedging of the beginning of the top, the head, specifically beregel in the feet. Yes.
The word ni'itza, is that the same word? There's a din in Shulchan Aruch with a knife, and you capturing a knife by dipping it in the ground by scraping it in the ground.
Yeah, but is the word ni'itza or is it ni'itza or the kira? I don't recall. It's ni'itza.
Okay.
Well, I'm saying.
I'm just wondering. That's what it reminded me of, and I was just curious. Okay.
I'm not. I don't recall. I don't think so, but we have to look it up. Ni'itza comes. There's a famous saying brought in Kabbalah Chassidus: Na'utz tchilatan b'sofan v'sofan b'tchilasan. The beginning is wedged. So I know the word ni'itza to mean wedged, stuck in. So maybe you're right. So maybe that's you stick the knife. You stick the knife, right?
Makes sense.
Yeah. I think you are right. I'm thinking about it.
I think it's for Ramah and Shulchan Aruch.
Yes.
Ni'itza sakarka.
Yes, you are right.
I think it is right.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Yes, very good. You're right. Let's continue. So he says the head is wedged in the feet. More than the head that extends itself. In other words, there is the head and it extends itself all over the head. But there's an aspect of the head that's wedged in the feet. Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem says, there's 600,000 foot soldiers, foot walkers. Moshe says that I stand amongst you. The Moshe, which represents Chochma, intelligence. The Anoichi who p'chinas keser, and the level of Anoichi is the crown of Hashem. V'sheyeh Anoichi b'kir boy. In other words, for there to be experienced that I, Anoichi, keser, is in you. Hainu hagili de p'chinas keser b'chochma, meaning that keser should be felt in Chochma, in wisdom, in hu ayidei sheish melchav ragli dafke. It happens only through 600,000 foot walkers. They make it possible that Anoichi is Bekir Boy. If you wouldn't have the Raglayim, you wouldn't have the foot soldiers, Moshe would never experience the Keser, the crown. Through the feet, the foot soldiers, the foot walkers, this gives Moshe additional energy, light. Ukemaimer, Yisemach Moshe, Bimatenaz Chelkoi. We say it every Shabbos. My grandfather Shalom used to sing this. He was about Tfilim. He brought it from Europe, from Poland. Yismach Moshe. Moshe rejoices. B'matnas chelkoi, with the portion of the matana, the gift that he got, which is Shabbos. V'klum nosati l'cho gedula. Why did Hashem give Moshe, us and Moshe the gift? Ela b'shvil Yisrael, to help the Yidden. So let's learn the kitzur. Yevaya, the haguf, godel. This large body, the olam mizdachach hayidei olam cotton, that the world is refined through the microcosm of man, the Adam. Hamevin umarbe umargish mechayas nafshi bechayas alikish b'olam. who comprehends and feels the energy of the soul of God's energy in the world. This is not the Seiviv. This is the pervading, customized energy. The Yavayit, and he explained, the Guf Nechlak L'Rosh Guf Aregel. There's three categories to the body of man: the head, the body, and the feet. The Yisrin Haregel, and the advantage of the feet, Hamaymed Harosh Umakbiyoi, that lifts the head and makes him tall. The Yifarish, and he explained, the foot soldiers, the foot walkers, create in Moshe that he experiences Onoichi, the crown, the Keser. So this is a very important Nakuda, and I'll tell you, as you get older, not everyone, but many people, their head works fine, but the feet don't work so fine. And, you could see that although the head's working, but the feet, if the feet aren't, whatever, blood clots, God forbid, and other issues, it's very problematic, I'm talking about myself and others, the feet, you need we talk so much about the cup, about the rush, and we need healthy feet. So what's the Rebbe bringing out? That Moshe Rabbeinu, who's the Raya Mehemna, who is the shepherd, the loyal shepherd, he needs the foot soldiers. He needs us. And we contribute towards Moshe Rabbeinu. In other words, we add something to Moshe Rabbeinu. To put it succinctly, Yidden, Chasidim, add something to a tzaddik, to a Rebbe. It's a two-way street. A Rebbe helps Yidden, and the Yidden help the Rebbe, help the tzaddik. What do they help the tzaddik? Yes, Yonason, what do you want to say?
What's the connection between that and Memale?
Because Memale Kol Almin is the oil, the energy that's customized. So in other words, unless you take the energy and draw it to other parts of the body or to other experiences, it can remain in its domain, in its place. And it won't vivify a particular situation. So, in other words, what he's saying here is, he started off saying that the real chiddush of Moshe Rabbeinu is for Seiviv Kol Almin. He didn't get to that. It's coming up in the next paragraph or two, okay? He made a statement and he goes back to explain Memale, and in other words, the Memale Kol Almin means I do something for you, you do something for me. That's Memale Kol Almin. And it's an important part, so he explains this important part. Chevra, we'll see everyone tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem. Yes, Moshe, yes.
Can I just ask, what that last line in the Kitzur? Mifarish Ragli Ha'am Anochi Bikiro. Can you just ask?
Yeah. The verse, it says in the Pasuk, the Pasuk says, what's the Pasuk? No.
When you say the Pasuk, which Pasuk? I'm sorry, which Pasuk?
That is here. It says in the Torah, Sheish Meis Elef Ragli Ha'am Asher Anochi B'Kirbo. Moshe Rabbeinu says there are 600,000 foot walkers of the nation that Asher Anochi, that I B'Kirbo am amongst them. That's a pasuk in the Torah. So the Rebbe, it's Chassidus, and the Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe is the one who originated the thought. And the previous Rebbe quoted it, that the Raglei Ha'am, the foot walkers, referring to that verse. You follow, Moshe?
Mm-hmm. Where is that? I'm sorry, I missed it. Where is the?
I think the pasuk is in Bahaloscha, right? You'll check. I believe it's in Bahaloscha. Anyone know where that verse is exactly? I believe it's in Bahaloscha.
Okay. Okay, I'll check it.
You'll check, but I believe it's there. So the Rebbe is saying that it's the Raglei Ha'am, it's the foot soldiers, the Jews, the Yidden, that create Anochi, referring to the crown, to the essence of God, to come into Moshe. Moshe would not have gotten Anochi if not for the Raglei Ha'am. That's his point. Anyone else wanted to ask something or say something, or that's it? Okay? Sei gesund, everyone. Have a good day. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.